Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk. I am your host, Asia the Bird. To have a very special guest with us today. She's an illustrator and designer. Please welcome Miranda Zimmerman. Hello, Miranda. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You are absolutely welcome. So I want to go ahead and kick off this interview by asking where you're originally from and how'd you get started into the realm of art?
So I am from Central California, town called Fresno. I don't live there anymore. I now live in Eugene, Oregon. And as far as getting started into like working in the arts go, I was definitely like one of those kids who like drew on everything. I was like all over like DeviantArt and Tumblr in high school. I ended up going to college for biology. So I didn't actually go to art school. I did, after the biology program, I did a 1-year science illustration program. And so that was kind of the extent of like my real, like applying art to like a job kind of exposure.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Now, what made you come with the name Faunwood?
That I don't really like have a good answer. Like it didn't just like come to me and I'm like, yes, I am Faunwood. I had when I was on Tumblr and DeviantArt, I was like had a few different names I was trying. I was like Astronite for a while. I was Nautilus, but it was Naughtilus. And I really liked that, but then I would do like art shows and like give people my card and like people would be like naughty loss. And I was like, okay, that's not working. So I thought about it for a while and like, I don't know. I was very, in the time that I came up with the name, I was very like, I don't know, broody and like really like into like, well, and I still am like the forest and like Pan's Labyrinth and like all that stuff. And so I was like, Faunwood, that sounds cool. Let's do it. And like when I made that change, I had maybe like 100 people following me on social media. So, and then it just went from there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Who are like your favorite artists? Like whether it's scientific illustrators or anybody, who are like your favorite artists?
Yeah. So for like science art and stuff, probably like my earliest inspiration would be, and I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but Tiffany Bozic. She actually like came and gave us a talk in our science illustration class because she's a science illustrator, but she's like a surreal science illustrator. Like if you look up her work, it's like beautifully like intricate and like scientifically accurate, but then at the same time it's like an illusion and it's just so beautiful. And then along those same lines, like Tegan White is someone I started following like as soon as I discovered Instagram. And I love their work so much too. I mean, the list could go on forever. But
Yeah. I looked at a lot of like different artists and designers, like Nate Williams, also Salvador Dali, Kirby Roseanne.
Yes, I was gonna say so because I had a feeling this question would come up, and I was like kind of writing down like, ooh, who do I think? And I did put Dali on there.
Yeah.
I mean, because I went to school in Monterey, and there's a Dali museum there, but it's not like the melty clocks, it's like the old stuff. And he was so prolific. It's a lot of like ink and like it's just so cool.
Yeah. I'm also into like Kandinsky and also Picasso. I like the era of Picasso where it's like he was all about shapes, and not so much a realistic. I like other artists like Paul Gauguin and Degas, some of those other artists and things of that nature. Also, there's an artist that I follow. His name is Paul Lewin. And he's like a Black artist, and he does these like cool African type illustrations and paintings.
Okay, I wrote that
down. Yeah. So, and also Hannah Yada, her work is very, very cool. I don't know if you heard of her.
A lot of these, I will say, like my knowledge, and I know you're naming a lot of like contemporary artists, my knowledge of art history is like embarrassing. So it's like thinking about like non-contemporary artists I like and stuff, it's like a lot of like big names I can come up with, but as far as like subversive, like cool, lesser known artists like of days of old,
right.
I don't know much. Something to work on for me.
Yeah, like you look at a lot of arts, like you'd be surprised at how much you find, like, because there's so many people with so many different styles of art. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, that's the thing with that. Now, in terms of in science, you studied like paleo reconstruction. What does that entail?
Yeah. So for the science illustration program, there's kind of a lot of different things you can do. And it was a year-long postgraduate thing. And at the end of the program, we all had to go and find our own internships. And so I ended up doing mine at the Field Museum in Chicago, where I got to do reconstructive illustrations from invertebrate fossils. And that was really challenging. Very cool. I mean, you're really like doing a lot of research on, I mean, I was being guided by the person who ran the collection and who like knew everything about these like species. And so I was physically like, I was working in their collections, which is like the dungeon basically. It's just a dark room of like drawers. But I had access to all these fossils, and like that's probably the coolest project I've ever done. And so I would be looking at the fossils, kind of using the information that they were telling me. I had like books I was referencing. I mean, a lot of them, there was like one that's kind of a mantis shrimp or related to what we know today as mantis shrimp. And so I can kind of look at like their living relatives and apply that, and like the differences, you know, take into account. And I don't know if that made any sense, but
So how can you describe your art style?
I think, I mean, I hope that it comes across as very like science inspired, and probably also like, I want to say like poppy, but baby poppy. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I would say like I'm very much inspired by Pokemon. My whole life I've been like a huge Pokemon fan. So I guess like fantasy, but also like informed by science, inspired by science. I like bright colors. I like high saturation. I like cell shading. I like digital. I like gouache. I kind of like everything. And so I find that I have to like temper it down a little bit. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, like for your, like when I look at your artwork, it's very scientific, but it has that, like how you said, that fantasy twist of like Pokemon.
Yeah.
The whole thing with like, if you like a Squirtle or like a Charizard, like you look at those different Pokemon.
I probably have more like Pokemon art flying around than I have like non-Pokemon art.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I felt it's more like, Pokemon, but it has that scientific vibe, but it's really your style. And I kind of like the consistency within like the artwork, because the big eyes with the big pupils, and then you got like the deer, I just like how you make animals and you make it your own. It kind of reminds me of like, the Paleo era, with all the sea creatures and, how they are.
I'm glad that comes across.
Yeah, because when you look at that era, you see all these unique sea creatures, and
yeah, and it's impossible to like work somewhere like the Field Museum and not just like take all of that in. I mean,
Yeah, and that's, with my style, it's like very bright colors. I'm inspired by birds. That's how I got Asia the bird. So, of
Yeah.
course, my name, and I love birds. My favorite one is bird of paradise.
Okay, I was gonna ask because Asiatic bird. I was like, "Ooh, what's your favorite Asiatic bird?" There's a lot of bits and
Yeah.
all that.
Asiatic means referring to Asia. So it's referring to me, my name, because my name is Asian.
Ah, okay. Not like the region so much as your
No. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's not referring to the region. Of course,
right.
Asia means the East, but
Right. No, that's cool.
yeah.
I mean, your name has like a story behind it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
That's the thing with that. But yeah, when you look at like the Paleozoic era with these sea creatures, you look at ancient sea creatures. Like my favorite one is the Nautilus. How you had the name with Nautilus, and I
Yeah.
love how it's just so unique in itself, where it's like this big shell, this unique shell. It got the eyes and it got the tentacles, and
Mhm.
they swim backwards.
Yeah, they're weird.
Yeah.
And cephalopods, I think, are like because the eye that I draw a lot, that's just like the black, the big pupil. Like I totally got that from octopi. Like they're just so cool.
Yeah, if you look at like octopus, you look at isopods, you know, I think isopods are very interesting because they're like
Yes.
big shell. They're like a fat version of a lobster.
Yeah.
So that is just the whole entire thing with that. Now, like in terms of like your business, so you sell like t-shirts, pins, and stickers and things of that nature. So what got you started into having like your own art business?
Yeah. So I was in the science illustration program when I released my first pin. And the reason for that, I think, is because when I signed up for this program, that was me saying, oh, I think I'm going to do art. For like, that was kind of the deciding factor of, oh, I don't think I'm going to do biology for a living. I think I'm going to try to do art.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in this program and I'm getting really active on social media, and I'm seeing all these artists are making pins. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of looked at that and I was like, I think I can do that. And that's like one of the great things about like Instagram and that whole like wave of like artists like doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, something happened that made it so accessible. Like
Mm-hmm.
I saw these artists making pins, and so I would follow these like Instagram accounts that just like repost other people's pins, and like
Right.
by following those accounts I kind of saw like where they were getting made.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that, and I did have to crowdfund the first few
Mm-hmm.
as I think most people probably did, because you drop like a bunch of money on like 100 pins, and if you don't
Right.
have people buy them, like what are you gonna do with it? So I was luckily able to do like a pre-order for like my first 3 pins, and then after that it like slowly I was able to use the money I made from that to produce like the next batch, and it just kind of like grew from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think because there was just this weird pin resurgence, or maybe that was just like my experience of Instagram, because social media is so tailored, like it shows you what it thinks you like. They were just like everywhere, and I think I actually owe a little bit of that like pin hype to my account growth, even though I try to focus more on like paintings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the pins and stickers and stuff are kind of what got me at least like started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of like t-shirts and like pins, what sites do you like rely on in order to like make your own like custom pins, custom t-shirts? Like what sites do you rely on?
Yeah. So I've been using the same person for pins for like 5 years, and they very recently like had an employee who got let go and like released all these like internal conversations that really don't make that company look very good. I know, yeah, I'm like, so it's a very complicated thing with
Mm,
that. It's gonna be like 5 months before I have to place another pin order, so I'm just kind of like seeing. Otherwise, I would like totally be like, yeah, like this person makes my pin. But right now, like
Right.
I don't know. But I know a lot of people use Zap Creatives.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people go straight to like Alibaba, I think, where you can find Chinese manufacturers. They're all made in China, or you have a middleman. And I was using a middleman because, and they're a little more expensive, but they do all of like the communications with the factory for you. And I know that people who seek out their own factory, if they get a batch of pins that are like highly defected, they can't sell them. It can be really hard with the communication barriers and stuff like that to be like, hey, this is messed up. If you have a middleman, they take care of that for you. So anytime I've ever gotten like a rotten batch of pins, they just like send over. So I think using a middleman is very helpful. It takes a lot of stress off of you. So yeah, Zap Creatives, Alibaba. For the t-shirts, I just found a guy in Corvallis, which is a neighboring town, who has a print studio. And I kind of found him by word of mouth because he works with a gallery here. That was the hardest thing, was getting somebody to make t-shirts for me. It's hard unless you're doing it yourself, which is going to take like so much time out of your day.
Right.
If you love printing, then go for it. But you know.
Yeah, that's the thing with that. Now, in terms of having an art business, what is your advice in terms of selling and marketing?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I feel like I'm very fortunate in that I don't have to think too hard about marketing. Sorry, I'm trying to like think of the words that I want to say. I've gotten to a point now, which I'm very grateful to be in, where if I release something new, there's already like an audience that wants the new pin. When I was starting out, I remember reaching out to a few of these accounts that would repost like pins and stuff and being like, hey, like, do you think you could like give me a shout out and that sort of thing? Pin trades with other pin artists. I haven't seen these as much lately, but there would be like loop giveaways, which is where, are you familiar? It's a few years ago, and it would be, so you would have like a pod of like 5 to 10 pin designers or like artists who are selling a product, and it would be a giveaway where if you want something from the giveaway, you like follow the artist of the thing that you want, but it's like,
I never heard of that. A loop.
It's
giveaway?
weird. Yeah. Because I remember I did a couple of them and I had to post at a specific time at the same time that all the other artists in the giveaway posted. And then basically, if you wanted to participate in the giveaway, like to receive something, to like enter the giveaway,
right,
you had to follow all of the artists on the thing.
Oh,
so it was
okay.
a way, yeah. So it was like a way to like get other, like, the fans of like this person's work are going to see your work because you're part of like
Okay.
Yes. So I did a couple of those. I would say like art trades and just stuff that kind of like gets you like involved in the community.
Right.
Yeah. Stuff like that is great.
Okay, cool. Yeah, also too, like maybe, constantly putting out ads and stuff, of your artwork. That's how you get more of a following and things like that. Putting yourself out there too, that really helps,
Right. And I think that I grew my following on Instagram at a time where it was easier to do so. I don't know if it's as easy anymore, because they are pushing like the ads and like paid stuff so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if the advice that I could give is even still applicable. At least in terms of like the way Instagram works. I would say also, if you're starting out, be very open to like new social medias and stuff. I mean, I remember when Vero came out like 2 years ago or something, and everyone was like, oh my God, Vero. Like everyone ran over to Vero. They're like, we hate you, Instagram. And then that like crashed and burned. Like their servers couldn't handle it. The owner of it was like a bad guy.
Oh Lord.
I know. So, but I mean, I remember like when Instagram was getting popular, I was on Tumblr and like switched over and like, I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I'm trying to be open with TikTok. You know, I don't post very much with TikTok, but I have to kind of get into spread my horizons.
Yes, yeah, and I'm with you on that. Like I've been making TikTok videos a little bit too, and that takes a lot out of you. I mean, it takes me hours to make a TikTok video as opposed to like an Instagram post where like I make, you make the artwork, the thing, and then you just like
post it.
Yeah, it's like TikTok is so much more involved and also feels like a little more invasive. Like I don't mind sharing like a process video, the paint strokes zoomed in, like whatever people find satisfying to look at, but trying to sketch or like be in the zone with like a camera over you can be really hard. Like that can really take you out of it. So I struggle with that too. Like I hear you.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I'm trying to get acclimated to TikTok because Instagram is like my go-to, because like how you said, you post something, you post a small video, and then that's it. You don't have to think too much about it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's the thing with that. So what is your take in terms of like pricing?
Do you mean pricing like products or pricing like paintings or?
Yeah, like pricing paintings, pricing like merch, like if you're selling pins of your work or like prints or whatever.
So for pins and prints, I looked at other people's shops and what they were selling them for. I feel like pins are very like consistent. I think a lot of people sell them for like $10 to $15 if they're like little ones. So I would literally just go on Etsy and like just like look at people's prices and price myself in there. Prints were a lot harder to price because I was printing them on my own fancy printer and cutting them myself. And I like, in order to make that worth it, I had to charge a lot more than I think what other people were charging. I'm actually switching over to InPrint, which is like a drop shipping, like people can just go on and order and they'll ship it to them.
Right.
And they have set pricing. So I'm just like, you deal with it. But for products, like I'm really just looking at what other people are selling their stuff for. For paintings, that's a lot harder. And I am the worst. Like just in terms of pricing. Like I don't think I price myself high enough. I think a lot of people struggle with that too. Like I don't think I'm alone. Because it's hard. Like it's hard because what if you do price yourself high enough and then nobody like buys it? What do it?
Yeah,
that hurts. It hurts your wallet and it hurts your soul. So I've just straight up asked people like, or the gallery, like if I'm putting something in like a gallery, I'll just say like, hey, what do other people sell something of this size and level of detail for? And like they're happy to tell you. And then you can take that information and decide whether or not that covers, the time and stuff that you spent. But we don't always make back the time that we put in, especially when we're starting out.
Right.
So
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, pricing could be difficult. And that's the thing with a lot of these schools that we go to, these universities or institutions, and we gotta remember like these places are businesses. And so the thing that I wish, because I went to SCAD, which is an art school in Georgia. And they have like 3 other campuses, like one in Atlanta, one in Hong Kong.
Oh wow.
I think they used to have one in Hong Kong, from my understanding. And there's one in Lacoste, France. So the thing I kind of wish that the art schools or any school that we go to, I wish they kind of taught us a bit more, was the business end of it. So we have a set idea of how to price stuff. It's not just making a contract or, working under somebody, getting an internship, or, right. It's kind of like, what if we want to have our own business or build a bigger business?
And they don't talk to you about that in art school? I mean, I haven't been, so I don't.
Yeah. I mean, they talk to a certain, not a depth, but they talk to a certain degree about business, but it's not to the point where it's like, hey, this is how you run your own business. Mm-hmm. So essentially it's about like, making a contract or, doing stuff for clients. Like they'll talk about that in those aspects, but not so much having like your own business.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like artists being able to have their own business and like self-funding themselves is a fairly new-ish phenomena. So I wonder if maybe like schools just haven't caught up in that regard. Like, I don't know. I've heard good and bad things about art school. But I mean, yeah, there's also like tax time and like calculating overhead costs, and like I don't do a lot of that myself because I'm bad at it. I mean, I plug things into TurboTax, but yeah, when you're like running your own business as an artist, you're really like doing everything yourself, and you're wearing many hats.
Yeah, you're wearing many hats because you have to market your work, you gotta price your work, you gotta find your your people, your clientele of who you want to service to in terms of with your artwork, and you have to build an audience, so there's a lot that goes into having your own business. So that's the entire thing with that. Now, in terms of getting professional work, how does one seek like professional work or freelance work?
So that I haven't done in a while. I've been kind of doing like more gallery stuff, and I'm like applying for murals and stuff. In terms of like industry work, the only stuff I've done, I was contacted for. I can't give too many details probably yet. I did a job with Netflix last year, and that was the first industry job I'd ever animation industry job I'd ever had, so I was very nervous. So I would say in terms of like getting the contract jobs, that's not something that I do a lot. So I don't know if I have the best of advice for it.
Okay.
I will say, like, have you heard of Lightbox Expo?
I have not, no.
It's a fairly new expo. I think they did like 1 or 2 years before COVID, but now they do it online. And I did one of the online ones. It was great, but it's a lot of the people working the expo, vending at the expo are all industry, like animation industry and stuff like that. And there was a lot of like connecting happening at that. And I know that it's not just Lightbox. I know there's a couple of animation industry expos where you can really go and like shake people's hands, introduce yourself. And I imagine in just about any like business that you're trying to get into in the art world, there's probably either an expo or like an online group or something. Facebook is kind of falling by the wayside, but I was in a couple of Facebook groups for like vending events, and I mean, really like getting that like community going, because if you are connected with like other artists and stuff, like let's say they get offered a gig and they can't do it, but they say to themselves, oh, Miranda does this type of work, I'll refer her. And so a little bit of that happens that way too. But,
okay. So let's move on to like gallery work. So I know you've done some galleries. Like what goes into having like your own gallery of like your artwork?
Yeah. So that I work primarily with just a couple of galleries. And so that started out with group shows. So Nucleus Portland is a gallery up in Portland, and they do every year, they do this salute show, which is coaster art. And you go in there and the walls are just covered in coasters that are like this big, all different artists. And it's just so cool. And I applied for it one year and I got in, and that was my first ever gallery show.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, with hundreds of other artists, right? And that went really well. And so, and I think one thing is that galleries are also a business, you know?
Yeah.
So they are interested in carrying what sells. So if you can like prove via like, you know, your social media or like past works and say, hey, there's an audience for my work, they might be I'm trying to like word this in the way that I think will make sense and convey what I'm trying to convey. Because it's not just about like sellability. But if you have the audience for your work and people like your work and respond to your work, and you say, hey, what about a solo show, after you've like worked with the gallery a little bit, done group shows and stuff, they might say, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. So, but it wasn't like, I mean, my first solo show happened like 4 years after my first group show. So it's like a slow roll.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. That's understandable. Now, is the art scene big in Oregon?
I would say yes. Yeah, especially, I mean, I don't live in Portland, but like there's galleries in Portland that are like, it's just so cool. There's one called Antler that specializes in like nature art and stuff. And, you know, as you know, that has my heart. I moved to Oregon a couple years before COVID. And so now, like with COVID times, I haven't really had the opportunity to go out and like be a part of the art scene. We did have, there's a gallery here in Eugene that does like drink and draws and stuff like that. And they don't do that anymore because of COVID. But that was a great place to just like go, like have a beer, meet other artists, like surrounded by like art on the walls.
Right.
I miss it. But we did, I mean, the artists are here for sure. You know, sometimes they just need a place to go. It's very easy to stay at home and work on a drawing or something rather than be social. But
yeah, what has been your whole take on the progression of art and like where it's going, like based on your like perspective?
That's a big question. I mean, I guess there's so many like facets to that. Do you mean like specifically like as far as like on social media and stuff?
Social media, you know, in terms of like,
I don't know how. I mean, I feel I'm starting to feel like an old person on social media. I'm 29, you know, TikTok, you know, everybody's like 18 and like getting their start. So that's just to preface that, like, if I say anything that sounds curmudgeon-y, maybe that's why. But I don't think it's as easy on Instagram as it once was. I also feel like, whereas I used to spend a lot of time on social media getting inspired and looking at other artists, now it just stresses me out so much. And I don't know if that's because the algorithms are just like blasting the same thing in my face all the time. Because I love following other artists, and I have such an appreciation for like these art styles that are really popular on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I'm tired of it.
Right.
And I'm like, I've been seeing like there's almost a style that like does really well on social media.
Yeah.
And like I think we should all like strive to like be different, but also the fact that it's all kind of homogenous is almost like interesting in the sense that like it's a conversation that we're all having with each other. Like it's a bit of a hive mind.
Right.
Yeah. So in some ways it's great, and in some ways it's very frustrating. And I truly cannot even begin to fathom like what the future of art on social media looks like, especially right now when we're dealing with like NFTs and like
NFTs.
Yeah. So I mean, my plan is to, not with the NFT thing. I'm not sure how that's all going to go, but with other like TikTok and other social medias and stuff, I mean, I'm just planning on hopefully keeping an open mind and like being open to whatever may come. But lately I've been really realizing the importance of the smaller local community that I have here in Eugene.
Right.
I think it's easy. I think I have done this myself. It's easy to forget that there are local artists and like people to talk to and art styles. And we have like a Saturday market every Saturday where people can go and sell their handmade stuff, and it's really cool. And like, if you're an artist and you're trying to like make it as an artist, don't overlook that and those opportunities, because that's going to be, there's people here in Eugene who sell their artwork locally. They don't even have social media, but they make their entire living doing that.
Right.
And so, that's another way that you can make a living as an artist and cut the internet bullshit out of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's more to it than just social media in itself. There's local, artists that you could support, whether or not they have a social media. But also too, what I find very interesting and what's very common on social media that has, I don't know if it's been popular, is this do it in your style challenge. Yeah. I feel like that's been popular on social media, where someone will have a drawing and say, okay, do this in your own style. But yeah, I think the art community is very, very huge. I like the different styles of art. It can get overwhelmed when you see the same thing on your timeline.
Yeah.
It's just the algorithm and everything. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to take a break off of social media real quick. But yeah, it's just, I think I like how it's evolving. Of course, NFTs are getting popular. I think they started getting popular like since like 2020, I would say. But I may be totally wrong on that. But
we've been talking about NFTs for a while. I mean, Bitcoin was like 2012 or something.
Yeah, Bitcoin.
Don't put me on that, but yeah.
But people didn't know how popular it was going to be. Bitcoin, and everybody's jumping on Bitcoin, and
if I had bought Bitcoin when I first heard about Bitcoin, I would be a bazillionaire.
Yeah, that's
anybody can say that probably. So
yeah.
To the point about draw this in your styles, though, that's something I didn't think about when I was talking about like connecting with other artists, doing collaborations, getting your work out there. One thing, because I just hosted a draw this in your style, it was a little like mushroom raccoon, and I I mean, it's so cool, like seeing people like interpret your art. But one thing that I like really wanted to get out of it that I hope people got out of it is like, because when I made the Draw This in Your Style, I was like, here's the hashtag. Please, 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 like follow the hashtag and like comment on other artists' work. Because and like I try to share it too. Like I had these grid posts where I was like, this is by this person and by this person. Because I think that that's so important, is like trying to get like eyes on people's work. Because it's like, I don't know, nobody like wants to shriek into the void when they're like putting themselves out there.
Right.
And I just think that like words of encouragement and like showing that like we see you, we're looking at your art. And I mean, I think that can be really, really important to people.
Yeah, that's the thing with that. Yeah, but the art committee is getting bigger. It's just really cool. It's a sight to see. But like how you said, it can be overwhelming.
Right. Well, and I really want to like, one thing I think that I have been very like, I don't know, nose to the grindstone, like very like self-involved in what I've been doing for a while, that like I'm starting to get to a point where I'm realizing that like, well, the whole artist community we have online is just this like amoebus conversation we're all having with each other. And
right,
what can I do to like, I don't know, help people or like be a positive part of that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, what can you do to help others and put out other artists? And that's what, with for this platform, I like interviewing different artists, getting to know their styles and things like that. And, the thing that I like with, in terms of just like illustration and and also the beauty industry, like I'm into that side because I'm a licensed cosmetologist and I'm into like nails. So it's this artist named Beverly Silas, and she has like these very, like this very like psychedelic type of art. And there are some nail techs or nail artists that do the art like inspired by her work. And I think that's really, really cool how art can be applied to different things, not just on like a literal canvas. It could be digital, it could be on nails, it could be on anything, on a big old brick wall. That's what, murals and stuff like that, like face painting, like how you said. And so art art is like a big conversation piece for the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's an artist I follow who does these like mushroom figurines, and they all have butts. her Instagram name is Wicked West, WKDWEST. They're great. They're like, I think they're polyclay butt mushroom figurines. I love them. I saw a TikTok video of someone who was making plushies that looked just the same. And I was like, oh, like, I wonder, like, is this nefarious? I don't know. Like, I sent it over, like, is this okay? Like, are you okay with this? And the person who does the figurines was like, yeah, like, that's, I mean, it's a different medium, like, and that response that she had to that, I was like envious. I'm not a perfect person. If I see something that's like really close, I'm kind of like, oh, like what's going on? I try not to be thin-skinned, but I can be sensitive. I can get bristled on the internet sometimes. I try not to. But her response was just like, that's what I want to strive for. She was like, no, like it's all like, I don't even care if they were inspired by my work. Like, more mushrooms in the world with butts is better. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, and I think with the way that we are all on the internet and like interconnected, like that's gonna happen, and like, I like throw your ego aside and like make room for people and that sort of, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And you also don't want to compare yourself to other people because you have your own distinct style of your own. Because especially, with social media, some of us as young people, we can get too much into social media and make things deeper than what it is. And, when you make things deeper than what it is, or you get into the phase where you compare yourself to others, oh, look at her art style, and look at mine. It's like that takes away from what you love to do. So I think comparison, shouldn't be something to really think about. You should stick to what you do, your own lane. So that's the thing.
Yes. And I do think that, like, if you're an artist and maybe you're like practicing, like in the program I did, we actually had an assignment where we had to find an art piece that we liked that somebody else did and copy it. And not to be shared or anything like that. It was literally just to like learn, like, oh, this is how they did their brush strokes, and like really like teach you things like that.
Yeah, I learned that thing too.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought on that one though. Where did we start with that? What was the catalyst?
Yeah, I think it was like comparing your artwork like to others.
Oh, yeah. So I think in that sense, it's like a great way to learn. But I remember what I was going to say is when you are looking at somebody else's work and you're trying to replicate it, the things that come out different, even when you're trying to replicate, that's your style.
Right.
Like, those little things that you can't help but do, like that's you. That's your juju,
Yeah. That's the thing with that. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Now, in terms of like art mediums, what would you consider to be your art medium? Especially like, what's your favorite like digital program you like to work with?
Yes. So I love traditional, and I will explain why. I would say I started out mostly doing like pen and ink stuff, and that still is like my one true love. I love gouache. Gouache is probably my favorite color media, like painting media. Digital, I have actually been doing since I was like 14. My parents got me like this like little like Intuos tablet, and we had like an old version of Photoshop. So I've actually been doing digital for a while, but I don't love it for like a full finished piece. And the reason for that is that like I become so overwhelmed by options. Like digital, you can just like throw any like color, and like you don't have to like mix to get it. Like I feel like it's harder to get a piece that looks harmonious digitally versus traditionally, where you're using maybe like the same 4 colors to like mix everything, so you can't help but have that harmony. But having a knowledge of digital programs can definitely help elevate your work, because when I'm finished with like a gouache painting or even a pen drawing, I scan it and then I like clean it up a little bit. Like I just like, I'll like make the background white, or, like or I can like for a painting, like just like boost up the colors just a little bit, clean the edges, and you have something that looks really nice online that you can turn into a sticker. So that's how I get like all of my traditional work to be like print ready and sticker ready, is by using a digital program. And I use Photoshop. I don't think Photoshop's the best. A lot of people are using I think Clip Studio. There's a few free ones that really are just as good, if not better. And then I really like Procreate on the iPad too.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people like Procreate. I like Illustrator. I have this new program that came out. I got it since like 2019, and it's called Fame Designer. So it's like a one-time pay. It's like $50. And so it's like a cheaper alternative to Illustrator. And I also use like the sketch. I use like Autodesk sketchbook. So I'm like a digital person, but I do like to get into like traditional. Traditional for me is pen and ink. I got into like the Posca markers and stuff like that as a because I know a lot of people use that, especially have you heard of the Australian artist? Her name is Gremrin.
Yeah, I actually watched your interview with we follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah, but her work is really great. I love her color palettes, especially she paint on the paint swatches, the ones you get like from like Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that.
Yeah. The colors, like the Posca pens. I love.
Yeah, those are really, really cool. Now, in terms of within art, the art world, how would you define success?
This has a lot of answers, I think. Because my gut instinct is like, are you happy? Like, am I happy? Like, I think art was never back in the olden days when people were just doing art. Like I don't think it was ever meant to be like commodified in the way that it is. But then that's very nuanced because like, I don't know, I like having art all over in the world. But so I think in this day and age, like defining success as an artist, like you can define it by like how much money you're making and stuff. But like, I don't know, for me, it's just like, are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you happy? Do you wake up happy to do it? And I'm not like happy all the time. Like I have to answer emails and like, I don't know, like order things for my shop and like that's work, but I do also think that it's, if you're doing art for a living and you're happy, like that can also be like a very privileged place to be, because not everybody like has the luxury of like, I mean, it's sometimes you're just trying to get by, like you're trying to make rent, like you don't get to think about whether or not like what you're doing makes you happy, because you have to get that paycheck so that you can afford to live,
survive.
So I don't know, it's really hard, and it's hard when art becomes work, because then you kind of like lose your love. So I mean, I define success as happiness, but I understand the nuance there, and that's not always, that's what we strive for, but it's work.
I think it's also, that's why it's important to take a step back. I think this is where mental health comes into play, because I think even though it does take work and you have to work to survive, you got to eat, you got to put food on the table. Of course, you don't want to lose your love for doing it. And like how you say, that's where it gets kind of hard, because you want to do what you love to do and have joy in it, but it's like you gotta provide. So I think that's where mental health comes into play, because if you're not happy doing what you do, it can lead to depression, anxiety, or whatever the case is. So I think mental health and taking care of yourself is very important.
Yeah. And on that note too, like I feel like well, I don't know, never mind. I don't know what I'm just thinking about like the ceramic artists who I work with at Clay Space, who like they make mugs and plates, and they love doing it, and then they just go to the Saturday market and they sell it. And it's like there's that, not every person who's doing art for a living is getting to make what they want to make. Like got contracts and commissions and working in the industry, and So, and everybody's got like a different idea of what they want to do. Like somebody who's working in the animation industry, even if they're working on something for somebody else, they might be really stoked that they get to be a part of this bigger thing. Like they're happy to be doing contract work because it's part of a bigger project that they love to be a part of. And then some people hate commissions, would rather just do their own thing and sell it. And and how do you get to that point? Like, yeah, it's like you have to kind of like identify where it is you want to be, then kind of go towards that if you can.
Yeah, go towards that, absolutely. Now, last but not least, how do you balance work and daily life?
I don't. I'm a monster. It's something I struggle with a lot. And like you'll notice, because you had to like quite literally chase me down, and I'm having the greatest time. Like I want to do stuff like this. Like I love this, and you had to chase me down, and that's because in order to get into a flow state where I am enjoying my art, I have to shut off everything. And that has resulted in me like not being so great at keeping up with emails, and like, oops, I'm a little bit behind on like a bill, like, nothing like life shattering where like, I'm not like neglecting like feeding my dogs or anything like that. But I feel like I I have to like shut everything off and like ignore things in order to like to a place where like I'm in the zone. And so in that regard, like I don't have very good balance. And then also with like work-life balance, like enjoying like other things in life. I mean, there's like the things that people always say, which are 100% true, which is like, you gotta take breaks, take walks. I wasn't getting up and stretching enough, and now like I've got a bad wrist. So little things like that. But I mean, I don't have good work-life balance. I don't know, like, because I work from home, like it's hard. I could learn from somebody who has really good work-life balance. Sometimes I forget to eat. It's just like, it is what it is, but I'm trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, last but not least, where can people find you on social media, and how can people support your work?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Faunwood. If you search that name in TikTok and Twitter, it'll probably take you to me. I'm not really on Twitter. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just doing my own thing on Instagram and TikTok. And if you want to chat, just say hi. I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Miranda, for jumping onto the show. Your work is really awesome. I love,
you.
How I said earlier, it has that Paleozoic type of vibe, and it just your work is really, really cool. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your knowledge. And yeah, thanks for jumping onto the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And also, like, I think what you're doing is really awesome. Like, I watched a couple of the interviews, and like, you're really like out there talking to people and learning like all there is that you can learn about like working as an artist. I think that's really cool. So
yeah. And like how I said, I try to, promote other artists or try to interview other artists, because I want to get to know them and their work and their style, because I think their style is so unique. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and visit my website, asiaticbird.com, and be on the lookout for more interviews to come very soon. Take care and stay beautiful.